today. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for big IB. The ladies at the table possible. On your right-hand corner, you're welcome to the blue jeans who are joining for the first. On your right-hand corner, there are a number of functions on there. And so if you can see me and you can hear me clearly, let me see in the comments. I'll just read it. And good morning, please name and your expectations. Would love to know. And the beautiful excellent thing about virtual events is that it is a great platform to network. And so in the comments, you can share your name, you can share your location, you can share what you do. In one word, what you're expecting from today's session. Today, we have carefully selected our speakers who will be speaking on a range of topics to address rising above bias, excelling in your career, and improving your social media presence. Giving the keynote speech for today, we have Shola, and also speaking later on, Trisha Biz and Nicole Chicory. We're excited at Stanbic by this platform, Nigeria, to engage and learn in a conducive environment. So we ask that you sit back, relax, and enjoy the next few hours. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here this morning. In one word, yes, I can say congratulations. Good morning. I'm tuning in from Lagos, Nigeria. That's fantastic. Thank you, Kumbi, who is a finance professional, joining in from Lagos. Excellent. I see Oyekachi Duru. Great to see everyone online. It's fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. We look forward to everyone engaging, and we ask that you please use the comments and share your messages as much as possible, and we will be following. Asking us to take a very short hand corner for the function 1 minute. You use that out just very quickly a poll from yourself. So you can click on the right hand corner, second to the bottom function. There's a poll there, our opening poll for this morning. Thank you very much. Please settle in. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. All right, so we have the opening poll on there, and it's going live in a few seconds. Whilst we wait for the poll, we'll come back to this after our opening remarks. So to welcome us properly to today's meeting, I'd like to invite the Executive Director, Client Solutions at Stanbic BDO. We like to call her Bumi Dayo Olagunju. Bumi, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Ayo. It really is a beautiful day today, and it's with great honor that I especially welcome distinguished ladies, gentlemen on the call today to today's edition of Ladies at the Round Table, also known as LATTES. A very warm welcome as well to our esteemed speakers, Shola Deboa, Trisha, also known as Trisha B, and Nicole. On behalf of Stanbic IBTC, I recognize every single one of us on the call, over 500 and counting, and thank you especially for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Now, borrowing a leaf from the 2022 International Women's Day theme that was Break the Bias, we have adopted this theme, Rising Above Bias, for today's roundtable focus discussion. And the reason is because the cause for women has always revolved around equal opportunities and representation. So we're focusing on issues that are pertinent to breaking that glass ceiling, whether it's across fields of expertise, and also we're facilitating access to basic tools that promote career growth and all-round wellness. And we've indeed seen that in these times, it's especially important to pay attention to all-round wellness, as it does impact every other area and aspect of our lives. As women, we play a vital role in our families, in industries, in communities, and indeed in society at large. And if we encourage ourselves to live to our full potential, we will find that our families, our societies, and our nation will flourish. Now, a world that is free of stereotypes and bias is one that we all aspire to live in. In Nigeria, we now see some encouraging improvement in representation of women across industries, be it formal or informal sectors. It's some progress, it's encouraging, but we know that we're not there yet. To enable us attain our full potential. So this event was created to enlighten us on how we can live to this full potential in our everyday actions and wherever we are across the world. And our guest speakers are seasoned women, captains of industries in their respective careers, and they have a repertoire of knowledge to share with us. They will share with us on how we can rise above bias in our work, in our career, on how we can build our personal brand, either online or offline, and at the same time maintaining beauty and living a healthy lifestyle. So I encourage us, be expectant and participate fully so that you get the maximum value from each speaker and each session. It promises to be interesting, to be educative, and to be memorable. Welcome once again, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, BDO. As BDO has encouraged us all in the open, maximize the session here today. We're really looking forward to a truly impactful morning. We have 2 hours roughly to go, and as mentioned, we're going straight to the conversation. But before then, women-led workshops, openly mentoring and sponsoring other women in the workplace and society at large, calling out men and other women when bias is observed. Excellent. Thank you very much for responding. We look forward to using this information in the course of our conversation. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for today. And it's a pleasure really to hear her speak, as she comes with a wealth of experience, especially breaking the glass ceiling, breaking the bias, and definitely rising above bias. She retired as Chief Executive, Standard Bank Africa Regions, and is now the Chairman of the Board, Stanbic IBTC Bank. Prior to that, she served as Chief Executive of Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC from 2012 to 2017, as well as the bank from 2011 to 2012, after holding various executive positions in corporate banking, corporate and investment banking, and investment banking coverage for Africa, excluding South Africa. Ladies in the room, ladies at the table, Empowerment Series 2.0, let's make welcome Jola David Boa, our keynote speaker, chairperson, Stanbic IBTC Bank PLC. And welcome for her, please. Jola, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Ayo, and good morning, everyone. It's a great privilege to join you this morning. Thank you for inviting me. I think the theme, for today's event is really very timely, rising above bias, because there is a lot of bias around us, bias in other people's minds, but also bias in our own minds. And I find many times that we have to deal with all the biases. You find that for many women, the glass ceiling is in their mind. So it's important that we've got to break the biases in our own mind, and we've got to break the biases in other people's minds. But it is great to join you today. And just to give a bit more background about myself, I've been married to a wonderful man for over 2 decades, Mr. David Bora, and he has been 110% supportive of my career. I would never, ever have achieved what I did without his support. I've got 3 children, 1 adult stepson, and also 2 teenagers, my son and daughter, who are both adopted. I adopted them when they were babies. But it's been such a great privilege, to be their mom. I'm grateful to God for entrusting me with his children. And I've really been blessed in all things. And I'm happy that I can share some of my experiences with you today. I thought that it might be useful to talk about failures, because I think that we learn more from failures than successes. And learning from failures is one way of helping us rise above bias. So if we can move to the next slide. And that slide is a quote from Maya Angelou. Can we move to the next slide? And it reads, it says, courage allows the successful woman to fail and learn powerful lessons from the failure, so that in the end, she didn't fail at all. So failure is important. In fact, I know I listened to an investor, a venture capitalist investor once, and he said he only invests in ventures where the promoters have failed, that he will never ever put his money into a venture where that promoter has never failed in a business before, because you learn powerful lessons, when you fail. If we move to the next slide, and I thought I would capture my lessons learned under 3 categories: family, career, and community. Starting with family, And, by the way, these mistakes are just a few of the many, many mistakes I've made. I couldn't capture all of them in the time that I have. But so these are ones that I thought might be important in sharing learnings, but they're by no means the only ones I've made. So in family, the first lesson was in transparency. Like I said earlier, my two children were adopted as babies, and I always told myself that I would tell them they were adopted when they were old enough to understand what that meant. But things didn't really work out, and my son, when he was about 9, he had the school project and talking about families and how you were born. Anyway, in the whole process of that, he found out he was adopted, and he was really devastated, and I was devastated. I went to a family counselor, an experienced family counselor, for guidance and help. And what she did for me was she helped me to understand how he must be feeling. Because, many times we don't really understand how our children are feeling. And, she asked me a question. She said, how would you feel if everybody knew something about you and you were the only one that didn't know that thing? And how would you feel if your whole world that you thought you knew came crashing down? And that helped me to understand how he must have been feeling and what he was going through. And I went to him, I apologized, explained why I hadn't told him earlier. In the end, he said he forgave me, I should forget about it, it's not a problem, and all of that. But what it taught me, the lesson is that we really have to respect our children, no matter how young they are. We've got to treat them with dignity. We've got to believe they have views that must be heard. And many times this is against our culture. Children shouldn't be heard and all of that stuff. But children must be treated with respect, and they must be treated with dignity, no matter how young they are. I think that's a very important lesson that I learned. And I now told my daughter, and anyway, so it's a journey, but like I said, it was a lesson I learned. The second lesson on the family was time. So we were just chatting the other day, just hanging out and chatting, and my son said, oh, you spent a lot of time at work when we were growing up. And I said, really? I said, yes. He said, so I said, well, I used to take you to school. He said, yeah, but you drop us in school and then you disappear to work and we don't see you again till night. In fact, sometimes we've gone to bed by the time you come. So I said, okay, but what about all those, I used to come for the events. I used to come for, if you had plays, we used to go on holidays. Said yes, but we really would have wanted you to be around more. And I guess in terms of things I could have done better when I look back at my career is maybe have found some time to nip home during break time and things like that, but just to juggle it more. I mean, COVID has helped a bit, but so for mothers who are multitasking and juggling things now, it might be easier, but time is such an important thing. The most important thing for children, the language of love for children is time. It's not money, it's not toys, it's time. So as much as possible, we must give our children and our family time. And the third lesson under the family is consultation. All the mistakes I've made were when I didn't consult my husband, and he's always right. I find out in the end he's always right. So my advice in that respect is please consult your husband. Please consult, get good advice, and then you can then make a decision, but still consult. It's important. And it also is respectful, of the relationship. So, like I said, these are just a few of the many mistakes I've made on the family. And moving on to career, where I start with the issue of respect. And I used to be very, what's the word? I lacked empathy, when I was much younger. I think I'm better now. But I really wasn't very sensitive to people's feelings when I started out in my career. And it's such an important quality for a leader to be empathetic, to be respectful of other people. And I recall a meeting that we had, many years ago. And at that meeting, I think I was chairing the meeting, and we'd finished with a particular topic, and we were moving on to another topic. And I now asked a junior colleague, a female junior colleague, that she should leave, since we'd finished with the issues that concerned her. But the way I said it wasn't very respectful, and she was embarrassed by it. And later on, I was asked by my boss to represent him at a bankers committee's meeting at the central bank in Lagos. At that time, the bankers committee meetings were held in Lagos. And because he couldn't make it, it was chief executive. And in those days, if a chief executive couldn't make it, then, he could send a representative. He would write to the governor and basically say that he would send another person to represent him. And there was a new governor that came in, and the first thing he said when he came in, he said, look, he only wants to talk to chief executives, that everybody that is not a chief executive in the room should leave. And we all had to leave. I think we were about 4 or 5. We had to sneak out. And it made me realize how that junior colleague must have felt, because he was disrespectful to have people leave the room, especially when they're properly meant to be there. So it was a lesson that I learned, and I learned it because it happened to me as well. So being very respectful. It doesn't matter whether the person is your junior, your senior, your whatever, the driver, whoever it is, you must be respectful to everyone. The second lesson is opportunity. One must take advantage of every opportunity that one gets, and I can think of many opportunities. I mean, one of them is investing early, starting to invest early. If I had started to invest when I started work in 1984, I'm sure some of you weren't born then. If I had started investing in shares, in different assets, I would be in a better place now than I am now. I mean, I'm thankful for where I am, but it's good to start investing early. There's so much power in compounding, no matter how small. I mean, I think of money I used to waste on holidays and all kinds of frivolous things, and just the discipline of investing, setting aside money regularly, no matter how small, over a long period of time. The power of compounding is amazing. So I encourage you, please invest. I remember speaking to a lady once. I was trying to sell mutual funds to her at a cocktail party, and she laughed at me. She said, oh, that, when I started working, I had a white boss. I had a British boss, and he called me aside. He said, I just graduated. I didn't know anything. He called me aside and told me that I should start making investments in shares and things. He said, she said she started buying. Like, there were small amounts at the time, but she started buying very early on. And she said she remembers her friends used to laugh at her and say, you're following, the white man's advice. But she said now that she is retired, she's living off the dividends of all her shares, and that many of her friends now are running around looking for contracts. So it is important to take advantage of every opportunity. If you get any windfall income, don't spend it. Assume you didn't get it and just invest it. I'll move on to the third. Actually, there's another opportunity I want to talk about before I leave that, and that was an opportunity to serve on the board of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Minister of Finance at the time had invited me to be part of the committee that interviewed for the chief executive and CFO roles. So we went to Abuja, we interviewed, and we went through an interview process. I think it was with KPMG, one of these firms, and then we selected the current chief executive of the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund. And at the end of it, she was now sort of looking to set up the inaugural board. And in the process, she was saying, "Look, are you interested? Would you be able to join the board?" And I immediately dismissed it. And for the life of me, I don't know why. I think I thought there was a conflict or so, but I didn't ask anybody. And I dismissed it. And it was later on I was thinking, why would I dismiss an opportunity to be on the board of the Sovereign Wealth Fund? But anyway, that was a missed opportunity. And it's just to tell people that, any opportunity you have, many times you might even think, I don't have any experience in this area. But that's probably why you should go there, because when you actually join a board or are exposed to a particular segment, then you improve your knowledge base around that. But anyway, I learned my lesson. By the time I was offered the position of chief executive of Africa regions for Standard Bank, I didn't hesitate. I just took it. I said, we'll solve any problems that come with it later. Moving on to the third lesson on the career, which is governance. We've been through several mergers in Stanbic IBTC, and we had a minority shareholder that used to be on the board and then left the board, and was quite unhappy, with the group. And when I went to see him several years ago, he complained that once he left the board, we dismissed him almost. Nobody contacted him. We didn't even send him Christmas gifts, etc. And I realized that even though he was a minority shareholder, he was a stakeholder. Okay? And what I should have done must have been to at least continue to reach out in a small way. One doesn't have to disclose information to him ahead of other shareholders, but there are other ways that you can continue to engage, because governance is about just making sure that all the stakeholders, are taken care of. And I felt that I could have done better, to avoid conflicts that arose. So that's a lesson that I learned and I took to heart, and it's something that I found also very effective when we faced a regulatory challenge several years ago. I had to do a lot of engagement. I engaged, and it was through engagement that we were able to find a solution, to that challenge. Moving on to the last segment, which is community. Systems mindset. By this, I mean one has to learn to think about solutions holistically, or to think about other people. And a systems mindset means that when you're faced with a situation, you don't think of yourself alone. You think of how does it affect every other person. It could be your family, it could be community, whatever. I mean, a simple example I would give would be when I retired from Standard Bank. I was based in Johannesburg for 4 years. So all my furniture, I was entitled to bring it back to Nigeria. But I told myself, I don't need all that furniture. I already have furniture at home in Nigeria. So I just, I brought a few things and I just left all the others. I gave it away. I couldn't be bothered. But when I arrived back home, my mother needed new furniture. I think her chairs were breaking. So it suddenly occurred to me that I was thinking in a very narrow way. just really thinking about myself rather than thinking about many other people. I could have brought everything and blessed many people with that furniture, and they would have been very grateful, for it. So we have to learn, and I've learned that, don't think narrowly. If somebody gives you, say, oh, would you like a food pack to take away? You say, no, I don't need it. Take it away. It might not be for you. Many times the blessings you have are not for you. They're for other people. You're just a channel through which that blessing will flow. So learning to think beyond one's narrow self is very important. The second principle is gleaning. And the principle of gleaning is about not taking everything, in the sense of, they talk about if there's a harvest, leave a little behind for the poor. And you've got to be deliberate about it. You have to be deliberate about using your business or your resources to intervene in other people's lives that have needs and most likely cannot repay you back. It has to be something that you set out to do. Either you're going to help X, Y, Z person with school fees for their children, deliberate things, just not just giving money away for, out of pity, but really helping to support the underprivileged in a deliberate way. And it could be through your business, it could be through your income, or whatever way. But gleaning is something that I've learned is an important part of, being a valuable part of a community. And the last story I'll tell you is about women in politics. I received a letter when I was chief executive of Stanbic IBTC. A letter came in the post, a random letter, and it was from a female senator. The letter was photocopied. It looked very odd. In fact, I thought it was a scam, actually. I just said, look, I dismissed it. And it was basically asking for support for fundraising. And I dismissed it. And later on, I met that same senator at an event. And she said, are you Mrs. David Bora? I said, yes. She said, I sent you a letter. Did you get it? So I said, yes, I got it. So she said, okay, at least you didn't tell a lie. So I said, yes, I got it. So she said, you didn't respond. I said, well, ma'am, I actually thought it was a scam, but, so I apologized to her and asked her whether I could still do something. She said, no, but she said, look, what I would like you to do is help support women in politics, because women in politics have such a very difficult time. It's climbing an uphill, an uphill task. So I said, yes, I would. But, the lesson to learn, I guess, is not to be too dismissive. I could have made inquiries, for instance, before dismissing it as a scam, ask questions, and, try to do something, because when you help people when they are in a particular need, they don't forget. But I thought that was an important aspect, and it's something that I'm deliberately trying to do now. So these are some of the lessons I've learned, and I think it's also important to learn from other people. So if we can move to the next slide. And these are three women you might recognize. I'm sure everybody recognizes Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, 2009 to 2013, and a former presidential candidate. The second lady is Park Geun-hye, I think, how she's pronounced. She's a former South Korean president from 2013 to 2017. And the third lady is Amina Gurib Fakim, the Mauritian president from 2015 to 2018. And, I think it's instructive to learn from some of the mistakes they have made as well, because it's easier to learn from other people's mistakes than to make your own mistakes. For Hillary, I think, when I reflect, and, many people that have accused her of many things, but the one I really found difficult to understand was in her official capacity, she had a separate server where she was sending official emails. So you have the government server, and then she has her own separate server. It's like, in Islamic IBTC, creating your own server aside from the company server and sending official emails. And basically, when they tried to retrieve that, she deleted most of the emails. Now, one is not accusing her of any wrongdoing, but the question you'd ask is, first of all, why do you have a separate server? Why were you deleting the emails if they were official emails? Which, she's apologized over it. She says she realized it was wrong. But it's a governance failure. It's a refusal to abide with the controls and the protocol and the policies that are in place. And as leaders, we have to. It's difficult many times, but you've got to submit yourself to the policies of the organization you work with, without a doubt. And I actually believe that that's the main thing that cost her the presidency. The second lady, she comes from a political family. Her father was a president as well, but, she was impeached. And, one of the allegations was that she was disclosing important secrets to a close family friend. A family friend, apparently had access to information that they didn't need to have, And as leaders as well, there's something we say need to know. If somebody doesn't need to know something, then you don't give that person the information. You're working for a financial institution, privacy is so important, let alone, a government employee. She was president, so it's another lesson that one must learn, that you just don't disclose information. I remember reading about the lady designer that designed Meghan Markle's wedding dress. And the report was that her family didn't know until the morning of the wedding. It was that secret. So by the time she basically told her family just before the whole public would have known who designed the dress. She wasn't tempted to disclose it when she was sewing it. So timing, confidentiality, materiality, so many things go into place. But it's really important to keep information private. And the third lady, Amina, she was involved in. She used a credit card that was given to her by, I think, a corporate or some NGO. It was meant to be used for official expenses, and I think she used it to buy some things personally with a view to refunding it later. But it cost her presidency. And all these ladies, I actually believe they are top leaders. It could be any of us, and it just talks to the fact that you can't be too careful. I'm sure they all had good intentions. Like I said, they're all great leaders, but they made mistakes that had huge costs and implications for them. So, as leaders, I always say governance, governance, governance. You've got to subject yourself to governance, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how painful it is. And, governance is your best protection. And it's better to learn from others, like I say, than to make your own mistakes. I'll round up with the last slide, which really says, failure is not an end in itself, but quickly fail fast, learn the lessons from it. Don't repeat that mistake. You can make new mistakes, but don't repeat that same mistake. And, failure makes us a better version of ourselves. We learn to be humbler, we're wiser, we're more empathetic, we can relate to people more, we're more resilient, we're stronger, because we failed and we've got up again. and we shouldn't allow failure to immobilize us. We've got to get up and learn from it, and then just keep moving forward, and as we do so, we will find that we are able to rise above bias. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand back to Aya.
Thank you very much, Shola David Bora, for that powerful presentation. Open up today's conversation. In the comments already, it's buzzing. I wouldn't even need to ask people what they thought about it. To ask people, those who haven't typed anything yet, just one word, what did you think about that presentation? And very importantly, what are the key lessons you took out of the conversation? Today's meeting, I heard you speak, ma'am, very importantly was the direction that you spoke from, especially from your failures. And oftentimes we can totally get it from it and never. Wonderful to see a measure of self-reflection, being able to recognize and learn and build from those mistakes. Thank you very much. I mean, Miriam Eguche in the comments had said very earlier on that this is rather interesting. She had mentioned that there's so much to learn, and I do agree, especially where you talked about taking opportunities. For me, that stood out because as women, unfortunately, sometimes we feel like imposters. We feel like we just said, take it anyway. When an opportunity presents itself, go ahead and do it. And sometimes we have the opportunity to learn on the job. Powerful, and open with us this morning. Anyone has questions? I know we had one earlier on. We have a few minutes, about 10 minutes for questions, busy schedule. And we thank you very much, ma'am, for doing this, knowing how important it is for the women at this table. And so we know you have to leave early, but thank you for coming to give the keynote and also staying behind to take some questions. I'll go on to read. Please use the Q&A to post your questions. You might get lost in the flood of comments in the general comment section. Yes, I see them now. Thank you. So Temita is asking, so inspiring. I wish I could share more. I learned to create time for my kids. But how do I manage that when my job does not allow that?
You want me to answer them one by one, or you want to take patches? Should I go ahead and answer that?
I can take a round of, okay, I can take a round of 3 questions so we can answer them. Thank you. Yes, please, you can go ahead. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, about your job not allowing you, I think you have to organize your life to make it possible. And at the end of the day, it's more about integration than balance. When I say integration, you integrate your family into work. COVID has helped, frankly, because you can work virtually now on times. But assuming you're even full time, physically in the office, you're going to have to make decisions, in my view, like either moving house so it's nearer where school, house, the logistics of moving around to enable you create time would, for instance, if your home is near your work, your children's school is near your home. I don't know how practical that is, but it's very different than if it's scattered all over the city, and you're unable to do that because even, and you might, because children don't really talk, so you don't know what they're feeling. So you really have to probe and find out that, okay, do you want, would you, I'm trying to spend more time, I want to create more time with you guys. Should I come home for have lunch with you? Should I take you for music lessons? You've got to find the time. And I know the fear many times would be that, oh, it might impact my career, or, my boss might think I'm not serious, etc. But being quite deliberate about it, I remember that I didn't used to take lunch breaks. And why not? Do you understand what I'm saying? Take a lunch break. And if you can, dash home and come back. So little things like that. Trying to close earlier, and then if you need to work, maybe work at home. But at least just to make sure that you are seeing them when they're alert. Because the time they really want you is, I'd say, up until when they're like 12. By the time they become teenagers, you're not their primary, you're not the person they want to be with the most. So try and take advantage of the time you have, when preteen times. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
But that was very helpful. Thank you. Go on to some in the Q&A chat box. And in the comments more, because they are coming in. All right, so we have, what do you suggest that one should do if she's been boxed work by her senior colleague? We don't know if you've had that, experienced that in your, and then another question here with regards to, someone had sent a question with regards to how do you politics despite your religion, because oftentimes we view politics as being dirty. And as part of your presentation, you had mentioned that it was important to participate, be involved somewhat in politics. Yeah. And then someone's asked on taking third one, I can opportunities where you don't really have expertise but learning as you go along. I need advice, especially in retirement. 3 rounds of questions.
Okay, so the first one was talking about being boxed into work by senior colleagues. I'm not really sure what she means, but I think the most important thing you have to do is just try and continue to add value in your place, on the assignments you have. So just try and be as valuable as possible, and if for whatever reason that situation is difficult, see if you can either move to another unit, or take on other responsibilities. But I find that ultimately it's about adding value, and being relevant, helping to solve problems. So if you have been boxed in, that means, I don't know, maybe they're not allowing you to be as free as you would want. I think just make sure that in the organization you're working in, you are identifying with the goals and you are adding value in achieving those goals. That should be your North Star. And, the politics around it, or people supporting you or not supporting you, I find those things invariably, they'll either fizzle away or people move. And the reality, for every career, there'll always be people who are for you and people who are against you. I've had that my career as well. You just continue doing your best, adding value, working as hard as you can, and I think that ultimately is what is important. There was a question on politics and religion and, being and participating. You can participate in politics in all kinds of ways. And it could be helping to fund, women, like I was talking about, a woman that wants to be in the House of Rep or wants to be a senator or whatever, wants to be president. It could be you yourself wanting to participate in politics. And sure, I mean, all kinds of things go on, but you don't have to you don't have to do the dirty things. Now, not doing the dirty thing might mean that you don't get elected, but it doesn't matter in my view. I think what's more important is you beginning to learn the ropes of how to go about it and building your own network, and learning. I find many times that people people wake up and say they want to be president of Nigeria. They've never held an elective post in their entire lives, or they want to be senators. In more mature democracies, you find people who have been involved in fundraising, volunteering, helping other political officers get elected and being part of their team, their campaign team. So there's a learning in that as well. And you don't have to get your hands dirty. The price of doing the right thing is that either you don't get some immediate reward or some promotion, or you don't get the appointment, which is fine, frankly, but you're still learning. You're still going through an experience that counts for something and could be useful in future. So however you want to participate in politics, do it in the way that you want to do it. And the last one about what was the last question on that one? Could you repeat the last question? I can't remember the last question. Okay,
The
yes, I
last
remember it now.
question was
About expertise. You don't have
advice on
expertise.
taking opportunity. You don't really learning as you go
Yes.
along.
Yes. An important question. Yeah. So I think, it depends on what it is. You could be invited to join a board of a company, completely different sector. You don't know anything about it. It's fine. If that board is okay, they'll give you an induction course, and you yourself will learn more and more about it. I a few years ago, I was invited to join the board of Coca-Cola Hellenic. I'd never been in FMCG. It's a completely new world to me. But I've visited some of their plants, I've been exposed to it. If it's something to do with trying to run a business, you learn it yourself. Get a certification in that area. Learning is so easy now on the internet. Once you set your mind to it, you're willing to do. There's so many courses, 6 months, part-time, full-time. Actually, there's nothing you cannot learn. There's no skill you cannot learn. That's one thing I'm sure about. As long as you're interested in it, you go through the process. And what I always tell people is, I recently started a postgraduate program, and people say, oh, why are you doing it and all of that? But the years are going to go by anyway. So whether you learn or not, this time next year, where are we now? We're in May 2022. In May 2023 will come. You could either have done a certification or a program, or you didn't do it. But that time will still pass anyway. And you will be 1 year older, maybe wiser, maybe not so. So I would say get a certification in that area, so that you actually understand, whatever it is you want to learn about is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, SDB. This has been extremely, extremely useful. My job is actually simple, just to say thank you. But I will crave your indulgence to please take one more question, even though we're out of time for this session. So Ibilola Odushegun asks, one of the mistakes you mentioned include sharing official information with family members. Does this include one's spouse? There are times one just needs to share and get other perspectives to issues. So we just thought it was important to quickly take Ibilola's question. Can we share information with one's spouse, please?
No, is the short answer. The short answer is no. The long answer is it depends on what that information is and the timing of the information. You know, the example I gave of the lady who did Meghan Markle's wedding dress, she disclosed to her husband the morning of the wedding because there was, you know, they would have announced it. All of us were told anyway that day after she came out that this was the designer and everything. So early in the morning, she told her husband. She didn't tell her husband when she was sewing the dress because, you know, it can leak. Part of the challenge with disclosing information, I mean, people in the stockbroking world, insider information, you know, families, husbands go to jail, you know, wives and all of that, you know. So the short answer is no, you don't disclose anything, you know. If you are saying you can disclose things like, oh, my boss is giving me a tough time if you want to. So, but he will help you, pray with you and all of that stuff, you know. But financial information, classified information, information on the work, absolute no. Capital N, capital O.
Okay. Thank you very much for very honestly and frankly guiding us. We have learned so much, and we are extremely grateful to you for making out time to be with us today. Everybody, can you please in the chat help appreciate Shola David Boa? It has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Ma. And I would so have a good rest of the afternoon, and I would hand back to Ayo right away. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great to be with you.
David Bora, and thank you, Lola, for appreciating our keynote speaker for today. Such a powerful session. In the comments, I've read just people talking about how informative it was for them, very practical, very real. It was important for them to walk with you on your journey and actually learn from what you consider from the failures in the course of your career. Yeah. There's one saying that I think of others. And so I think on this morning or in the past few minutes with keynote speaker is just to learn from her life and from the world of her experience. Thank you. All right, Shala's had to leave us now, but we continue. And we're going a quick break. We have an important message for you. And in the meantime, you can take some time out to reflect on what you've just listened to, or perhaps stretch your legs, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of latte, or perhaps
Sorry, wait, excuse me, sir. I'm looking for number 2 Johnson Street.
Oh, Johnson Street.
Yes.
That's quite simple.
Okay.
Now you just go straight on longitude 155, longitude 155. Now take a 360-degree turn and turn left. Then turn right on latitude 379. Are you following? Face the south. Face the south and transverse the trajectory. At that point, you would notice a newly old turning. Take the sharp turn, and at that turn at angle 90, and boom, you are in Johnson Street. You can't miss it.
At Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers, we believe the journey ahead should be simple. Let our experienced managers support you. Switch to Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers today. Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers, a member of Standard Bank Group.
All you are welcome back to Lattes, and we are moving very quickly to the next session after such an inspiring session by Shola David Boa. So the next person who will be talking to us is known as Tricia Bees, and her profile in one moment. Can you pull it up, please? All right, so Tricia Olufemi Olumide, fondly referred to as Tricia Bees, is the business fixer and an entrepreneur, author, and business growth expert with over 12 years experience working across a wide portfolio of Fortune 100 companies and clients across Africa, USA, UK, and Canada, offering marketing, sales, and business growth solutions across several sectors. Tricia Bees has adept knowledge of traditional and emerging marketing channels, product development, sales funnels, and strategy that have led to consistent increase in revenue for her clients. Ladies and ladies, please make welcome at this time with virtual claps and woohoo, Tricia Bees to the Ladies at the Table Empowerment Series 2.0. Tricia, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good day, everybody. Thank you, Lara. Nice to be here. How are we all doing? So welcome to my session. I'm still recovering from the keynote speech. It was so amazing. So today I'm going to be talking about how to get seen, right? And I think that this is important for everybody, you know, whether you're trying to get seen by a recruiter, or you're trying to get seen by your organization, or you're trying to get seen by customers, for most of us in business, or you're trying to get seen by partners, whatever it is, we are in the world where right now everybody is trying to put their best foot forward and get seen by somebody. Who that somebody is left for you to identify. So welcome to my session. I do hope that by the time I'm done, you should have gotten one or two tips that you can take out to amplify your work on social media. All right. But I just wanted to, you know, show us some numbers before we get into 100 ways to. So if you look at this number, you see that the active social media users in Nigeria, well, this number is, to me, we're more than this, but this is what we can get from data. It says there's over 33.9 million. And this cuts across all types of social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the likes. So that means that at every point in time, when you are putting out your work, putting out your personal brand, you need to have it at the back of your mind that there are this many people across the platforms. So you have the opportunity to reach out to as many people as possible. And perchance you are even looking to be noticed by people outside your country. There's hundreds of millions more people across this platform. So this year, 2022, should be the year that you actually focus and write one small goal down, which is I will show my work, I will show my brand, I will show my business to lots more people, using social media. Okay, so there are different ways that you can, get seen online. If this was a masterclass, I would give you like 20-step journey, but I'm just going to try to make it as quick and short as possible. So I've put together a 3-step journey, and we will break each of the steps as we go on, but I'll just introduce it first. So the first step journey is to define you, right? Normally we just jump to, okay, how do I get seen? Should I be posting more? Should I be tagging? Should I be hashtagging? That is great, but there's 2 things that needs to be done before we get to the tactics. And you need to first define yourself, like what's the reason you want to be on the platform? What platform should you actually be using? What persona will you be projecting on the platform of your choice, etc. And we'll break that down in a bit. The second step to this journey will be identifying your audience. So who exactly is it that you want to be speaking to? Who is the intended recipient of your messaging? That helps you craft the message properly so that they understand that it is for them and they understand what you are trying to pass across. And then the last step is learning the rules of the platform. Each social media platform has rules. So what applies on Pinterest does not necessarily apply on LinkedIn. What applies on LinkedIn definitely can never apply on Twitter, because there are different breed of people there. And what applies on Twitter does not apply on Instagram or even WhatsApp. So when you now decide this is the platform that I want, you need to understand what are the rules on this platform that will help me maximize my visibility for more people to see me and engage with me. Okay, I can hear interference. Fantastic. So those are the 3 steps, and I will break each of them one by one. So the first one, which is define you. What does it mean? It means that you need to first ask yourself this question: why do you want to be online? So if I ask you now, just tell me in the chat section, just quickly, why do you want to be online? So what are you doing online? Why? For me, it is I want to, promote my brand and get clients. I want people to sign up for my classes. I want brands to partner with me to educate their audience, like Stanbic has done today. I want brands to partner with me to advertise their services to my audience. That's what I want online. I want to project myself, people to know how amazing I am. I want to do business with me. That's my answer. So if I ask you now, tell me, why do you want to be online? That's the first thing. Are you here to sell your product or service? That would be a typical business owner who is interested in using social media to increase their sales. Or are you here to build your brand? Like, oh, I have this personal brand and I just want to build it so that people understand who I am and the knowledge that I have. Or are you the person who wants to monetize? You're like, I'm just here to make money. I don't know what you're talking about. I want to be online to make money. Either I'm monetizing my knowledge, or I'm monetizing my content, or I'm monetizing my platform, monetizing my community. I'm just here to monetize. So where is the money? Show me. Or are you here to position your career? Because there are people who are not business owners. They don't intend to be business owners. And they're just there to position themselves to either get the right promotions or get their best next job. For instance, it's interesting. I left 9 to 5 in 2017. That's when I had my last managerial role. Until date, I still get recruiters, sending me messages on LinkedIn, even though I'm hardly there. So, social media can actually, help people who are looking to position their career in whatever direction they want. So this is the first question that you need to ask yourself. why do you want to be online? Because if you know your why, then that helps you understand how you should position yourself and position your content online. So that's the first question under defining you. Then the next question you want to ask yourself is, which platform suits my personality? So now we know you're there to just position your brand and get partners to give you some money. Okay, that's what I want to do. So based on that, which platform will help me achieve this goal? Because there are so many platforms, but if we if we aggregate them together, they fall under three broad categories. There's short form content platforms, long form content platforms, and engagement first platforms. And I'll explain the three of them, right? So short form content are platforms that allow you to just drop content that is quick and on the go. So for instance, you have platforms like Twitter, where you can just drop a tweet. A tweet is 140 or 60 characters, I don't remember. So that's short form content. You can just think something quickly, type it and drop it. There's long form content where you need to express yourself. If you are that type of person where you need to talk, you need to analyze, you need to explain. So platforms like that will be blog posts, it'll be YouTube videos where you can just talk as long as you want. And then you have engagement first. Engagement first platforms are platforms that at the core of their algorithm use, it is they want people to engage on the platform. If you look at platforms like Instagram, the Instagram algorithm keeps pursuing engagement, right? If your content looks interesting, then they push it to so many other people. Platforms like that are Instagram, LinkedIn. The algorithms are circled around engagement. Once your content is receiving some level of engagement, it just keeps boosting it, and it shows the platform that, okay, people are interested in hearing what Trisha has to say. People are interested in hearing what Lara has to say. So based on your personality, which of these platforms will suit it. And if you understand, like platforms like Instagram, even though they're engagement first, you can also do long form content. That's why they've added tools like Instagram Live, IGTV, where you can just come and express yourself for as long as 30 minutes, 1 hour, depending on what you want. Okay, so that's the second thing that you need to look at when you're defining you. Again, experts advise that you should be on all platforms, but me, I say, find the platform that works for you and dominate it. So for me, I found Instagram in 2017, and that's it. You won't find me anywhere else. I'm just on Instagram. I've dominated it enough for the brands that matter to know I exist and call me to do business with me, right? If I decide that tomorrow, okay, I want to move to another platform, that's fine. But don't be one of those who you are everywhere or you're nowhere, because you are really not making any impact or achieving the goals that you want, because you are cutting yourself short across all platforms. And don't be one of those people who will be sending content from one place to another. When I see people post on Twitter, on Instagram, and send the same post to Twitter, that means you don't understand the rules of the platform, right? You should not be doing that. Or you're posting on Instagram and sending to Facebook, and then they have to click the link to come to Instagram to finish reading your post. We'll get there. Okay, so the last part under brand you is looking at other tangibles and intangibles. So one is, what's your brand persona? So how do you want to portray yourself? Will you be that calm person who just, writes calmly? And will you be that person who helps everybody understand what they're saying? Are you going to be the jester? There are things called brand archetypes. You'll be the jester who is in everything that you're creating, there's some level of humor. Will you be the person who, when we read your content, we're like, oh, this person is actually knowledgeable? Whether it is on selling shoes, you are knowledgeable on what it is you're doing. Or if it is content on your career in the financial industry, we read it and we're like, oh, this person is actually knowledgeable on money instruments and all the likes and all the likes. So what would your brand persona be? You also need to ask yourself, what will your tone of voice be? I remember some years ago, there used to be a handler for EFCC Twitter accounts. How many of us remember that account then? Just say yes, you remember, in the comment section, where we just laugh and keep laughing because the person had, the tone of voice was humor. laced with education, and laced with a little bit of savagery. So that when you saw the tweet, you knew, even if they blocked off the handle, when you saw the tweet, you're like, this guy is up to something again. And when that person stopped handling the EFCC Twitter account, we knew, because the tone of voice changed, because tone of voice is not a company thing, it's an individual thing. So even though the next person may have tried to, fill the shoes that the old guy left, the person couldn't. Because it's the tone of voice of that individual person. It just brought it into the workplace, and surprisingly, it was approved. So identifying what your tone of voice will be, and lastly, what the aesthetics will be. Aesthetics is basically visual. So what do we see when we come on your social media? Are you the person who is going to identify, okay, I want to only create content in particular colors? So for my brand, I have colors that I use. Some people may not have colors because to them it's not that serious. But how do you want us to feel when we look at your feed? Will it be this arranged feed, or it'll just be an all over the place type of thing? Even if it's a personal page and you're posting just your pictures, what kind of images do you want to put out there? Because at the end of the day, what we see helps us form a perception of who you are. So that's why sometimes I see people come on Instagram Live and the room is dark. 1, 2, the hair is halfway out, like they're loosening their hair. And you say, apologies, the power is out, I'm just taking out my hair. You shouldn't have come on Instagram Live, because even though you have something brilliant to say, we're judging based on what we see. So I'm not saying you always have to do makeup, you always have to look prim and proper, but you need to put your best foot first. If that is combing out the hair or even wearing a face cap so we don't see that half of the hair is out, then do that. Just make a tiny, weeny effort to look like how you'd want us to judge you. All right, so these are some things that you need to answer in the first step, which is identifying brand you. And the last part is messaging. So what would your messaging be? So we move to the second step, right? The second step is the audience. All right, so the audience. Who is the audience that you want to be speaking to? You need to understand, first of all, who you want to speak to. And this answer you would get when you answer the first question I asked, which was, why do you want to be online? So if your audience is for buyers, then you know that the type of content you should be putting out there is content that helps your buyers take an informed buying decision, and content that helps them see that you are the best thing since sliced bread, and they should buy from you and not your competitors. Right? If your audience are stakeholders, then you know that you need to be adding value with your content so that they see that you are a worthy member or a worthy person that they can use on partnerships and programs. If your audience is recruiters, again, you should be putting out content that shows that you are knowledgeable in your field or in your role. So depending on the audience that you want to consume your content, you need to write for them. They are not writing to, so fine, there's content that you write to suit yourself. Or at the end of the day, understand that if you're on social media, you are communicating with people, whether your followers, whether people who stumble on your post, and you need to write for them and write their speak, right? So for instance, I know that my audience are micro and small business owners, which means that, and if I look at the statistics, I know that most of them have never held a 9-to-5 in their lives. Right, straight out from NYC or straight out of university, they started a business because they couldn't get jobs or some other reason, some other economic reason. So that means that if I'm teaching, I cannot use professional jargons. I cannot use marketing lingo because they don't understand what it is. I have to speak in a way that I'm able to break that down for them to understand. And that's how I'm able to get them to get results, because I know who my audience is. Right? So if your audience are people who want to buy from you, stop using professional language like, oh, this microphone has 40 megawatt amplifier, 2 backbone link. I don't know what that is. As a buyer, I just want a microphone that I can use on my live stream and everybody on the other side can hear me. So if you understand that that is my level of awareness and level of understanding, you won't be listing out all the features, rather you'll sell me the benefit. All right, so that's the second step. Then if I move quickly to the third step, for me, this is where everybody always runs to, like, what are the rules? What are the things I need to do? So when you understand, who you are on the platform, who your audience is, the next thing you want to understand is what are the rules? What are the rules that I need to adhere to on each platform? Different platforms have different rules. I will only run through one platform, and I would advise you to go and learn the other platforms that you've decided, learn the rules that apply on there. So I'd written like 4 different platforms, but I'll just share Instagram and I will end my presentation, okay? For instance, on Instagram, they tell you things like your username has to connect, you need to have a clear bio that explains who you are, what you're doing, or what you offer. You need to understand, okay, what kind of content should I be putting on Instagram? Right now, you need to look at viral content drivers, and they are number 1, Reels. Instagram be favoring Reels, and then there's carousels. Your caption needs to convey the information you're trying to pass across, and it also needs to have a clear call to action. Video marketing is big. Video marketing across all social media platforms is big because we have visual learners. Then Instagram favors people that use all their tools. You use carousels, single post, IG Live, IGTV, Reels, everything. They want you to engage on their platform, and then they rank your profile higher. They want you to be an active user. So not stop waiting for people to come on your own page. You go and engage on other people's page. Comment here, like here, be part of the community that they're creating. And lastly, they want you to advertise. Give them your dollars. Whether you're advertising with influencers, you're advertising on community pages, or you're giving Instagram your money directly, Instagram wants you to advertise so that they can push your content out to more people. And it's not only those who are selling that advertise. Sometimes I'm educating people and advertise because hopefully somebody else can see my profile, my post down the line and say, oh, she's knowledgeable on marketing, let me follow her. It's not only when you're selling that you advertise. There's so many needs for advertising. So yeah, that's basically the 3 steps that I wanted to share. I would advise you to go and learn the rules of all platforms. I put Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, because each platform has different needs and different rules to get you to be seen. And the last thing that I'll say is, remember, whatever your craft, that's business, persona, social media can work for you if you make the decision that you're going to apply yourself, and then you're going to be what? You're going to be consistent, because consistency is key across all the platforms. You need to ensure that you are consistent. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That is all the time that I have. A few gentlemen on the moderator board, but mostly ladies. Thank you so much. I do hope that my session was really valuable and you took 1 or 2 lessons out.
Thank you very much, Trisha Biz. Just to answer the question, I think it's a fair thing to pose to the audience. Was her session valuable or was it valuable? Thank you very much for making it very practical and as straightforward as possible. I see questions and reflections already in the comments and as well in the Q&A box too. One that stood out for me whilst you were speaking, and I think it echoes the thoughts of a number of people, especially when you set people free from the shackles of having to be on every single social media platform, whether they understand it or not, or whether it's relevant to their business or not. Dushima says, finally, someone speaks my language, not understanding being on every social media platform, find the one that works. And I think to just show just how well that point drove home was how people then started reflecting and sharing the platform, the social media platform that best suited their personalities and, very importantly, their businesses. And so if you haven't thought about it, it's a good point right now to think, for the service that you offer, for your brand, for your organization, which of the social media platforms best fits? Thank you, Trisha. We'll have Trisha just go on, just take some time out for a second. If you have questions, we already see them on there. However, I would love to take the questions for both facilitators at the same time. So hold your questions. We're not taking it away. We're not ignoring them. But we want to listen to our next facilitator who's going to be speaking and bringing a balance with regards to health, fitness, welfare. Self-care is what we call it. Thank you, Tricia. We'll have you back for the Q&A session in a moment. Thank you. And a round of applause for Tricia. And it gives a bit more time for us to think about our questions and also post in the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of your screen. Thank you very much. And so it's my pleasure to bring on our next speaker, who is going to be speaking for the next 15 minutes and sharing with us on something that perhaps some of us think when we do it, we are lagging behind, or we have a sense of guilt. We're about to put that guilt this morning forever and ever. So our next speaker is a fitness and wellness enthusiast, entrepreneur, and the founder of the Mommy Summit, the community and conference that serves, or that's a community and conference that serves, connects, and empowers African millennial mothers. Is passionate about fitness and wellness. She uses her platform to promote a health-conscious lifestyle. She has a BSc in economics from the University of Birmingham and an MSc in finance from the European School of Economics. Our next speaker, speaking on self-care, is Nicole Chicory. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me clearly. Hello.
Yes, we can. We can see you and we can hear you clearly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ayo, for that very warm welcome. I'm very grateful to Stanbic IBTC for having me as part of this amazing webinar. I've personally learned so much from our amazing keynote speaker and from Trisha Biz as well. That was a fantastic session. Being a content creator myself, that was really useful for me, and I will probably be asking some questions in the comments as well, Trisha, so please be on the lookout. Once again, my name is Nicole Chicory. I am a content creator and entrepreneur, and I am the founder of the Mommy Summit, but I'm passionate about women. My whole life's work is about trying to help women be the best that they can be. And what I will be discussing today or sharing with today is about self-care. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen now. If you just give me 1 second, so I can show you my little presentation, which I will go through very quickly. Okay. All right, I hope we can all see the presentation. Okay. Ayo, can you let me know if I'm on?
All right, so we can see you, but we cannot see the presentation yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Fantastic. Yes, we can. Self-care is not self-care. We can see it. Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Nicole.
Okay, so the title of what I'll be sharing today, as you can see on the screen, self-care is not selfish. Do not put yourself at the end of your priority list. So what comes to mind when you think of self-care? I can imagine that for most of us women, the couple of things that come up are like, oh, massage, spa days. And please let me know in the comments as well, when you think of self-care, what are the images that come to mind? So things that come to mind for me: shopping, massages, spa dates, traveling, maybe a trip abroad, trip to the Maldives. You know, on Instagram now, Maldives seems to be a very popular destination. So it comes across as something that's indulgent and possibly something that only people who have money are able to do. After all, you need money to go on a trip to the Maldives. You need money to be going for regular spa treatments. And so it comes across as something for people who only have the money or have the time to do it, and something that you do to indulge yourself as a woman. If that's the case, in terms of what you're thinking about when you think about self-care, it's time to change the narrative on what that term really means, especially for women. So like I said earlier, we often see the message of self-care in advertising directed at women as a sales pitch for something we don't need. So in the last couple of years, a new term that has come to the forefront is treat yourself. You deserve it. Pamper yourself. Problem, no, they finish. Just relax. I have to, I can't kill myself. And therefore, because we're treating it as a treat or something you deserve, it makes sense that we associate the practice of self-care with pampering yourself or spending money or something that's indulgent. But what I wanted to reiterate to all the women on this call is that self-care is not something that is earned. It's something that you require, and it is absolutely crucial for your physical and mental health. You don't have to log in X amount of hours at work. You don't need to earn X amount in a bonus. You don't need to earn X amount as a salary. You don't have to have completed that presentation. It is something that you require. It's not something that you earn. It's not something that you treat yourself with. It's something you absolutely must do for your physical and your mental health. But we'll talk about that some more as we go along. Why you shouldn't feel guilty about self-care. Self-care is just another name for taking care of yourself, which is vital for your health and well-being, like I said before. More specifically, self-care means identifying and meeting your needs, which is something that most women struggle with. As women, we all know, especially in this part of the world, in Africa, which is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about helping and then you're a daughter, then you're an active member of your community, maybe you're active in church, and we are trained as young women that the more useful you are to other people, the more value you have as a woman. Please let me know if that resonates with you in the comments. So the more you're able to offer other people, the more value you bring as a woman. So on your priority list, women tend to put themselves last. I know that that's something I personally struggled with for several years. And so because we feel obligated to take on these many roles and prioritize ourselves last, it sometimes feels awkward or selfish for a woman to shift from everyone else care to, hey, I also deserve some care myself. So it's time for women to view care differently and enter into this uncharted territory, however uncomfortable it might feel at first. If you don't properly care for yourself, your body will let you know in negative ways. Your body will break down. So let's talk about it some more. What happens when we neglect self-care? You're on autopilot. So myself included, I know several women who are just on autopilot every day. You're just walking around, going from point A to point B. Your mind is swinging between haze and chaos. Sometimes you feel like you're just walking around in a fog. Like your thoughts are not clear, your mind isn't clear, the vision isn't clear. You're just trying to go from point A to point B. I wake up, I get the children ready for school, I drop them at school, I have to get to work. I'm at work, I don't even feel like I'm providing the level of productivity that I should be, but I'm sat there and I'm doing everything that I can. You're just on autopilot. You're not performing at your optimal best. Other people's needs come before yours. Like I said, it's something that's also ingrained into us from a young age to prioritize other people before ourselves. So you're constantly putting other people before yourself. Every day feels like playing catch up. When you neglect self-care, you're just trying to make it to the end of the day. I often say to, or I used to say to myself, and again, the community of women I speak to on a regular basis are just saying to themselves, let me get to the end of the day. Or let me just get to Friday, or let me just make it to Saturday morning. And every day, you just seem to be trying to make it through the day. You're physically burned out, you're exhausted, fatigue, headaches, you're dealing with chronic stress. And what does chronic stress do to you? Chronic stress actually wreaks havoc on your health. It's not just a mental thing, but stress actually impacts your immune system. It gives you inflammation in your body, which makes you more susceptible to things like colds, weight gain, ulcers, sleep issues, depression, heart disease, diabetes. All these things have been scientifically linked to stress. And then what do we do when we're stressed? A lot of women I know, myself included, we then turn to binge eating, maybe junk food. Yeah, binge eating junk food, maybe having a couple of glasses of wine at night just to step down and get yourself together. We're watching episodes upon episodes of TV shows on Netflix, just trying to get through the day because you're saying to yourself, oh, I'm stressed, I need to unwind. And what do these things do? They give you poor sleep, and ultimately, they make you unhappy. So for me, I advocate for self-care to prevent women from getting to this point. And rather to succumbing to the treat yourself approach, this is what we had discussed earlier, instead of seeing it as something you do to treat yourself, it's something that you prioritize because you need it for your physical and mental health. And that means treating yourself with love and with respect and with discipline. Self-care is not about, eating that extra bit of cake and, going for massages and spa days. And those things are helpful. But people don't actually realize that discipline is one of the highest forms of self-care you can give yourself. Taking care of your body and being a little bit strict with yourself is what could ultimately set you free and set you up to live a much happier life. Okay, so how can we get started with self-care? We've spoken extensively now about the importance of self-care and what happens when you are not taking care of yourself. But how do we get started? You can start small by just creating a pause in your day. So start your self-care routine by taking time each day to pause. An activity that promotes inner peace and calm, and this will allow you to unwind from stress and get in touch with your needs. Stress relieving practices quiet the mind, they balance the hormones, lower your blood pressure, and improve brain health. So I'll give you a personal example. During the lockdown, I have 3 children. I have 3, they're quite young. My oldest at the time was 7, yes, 2020. So he was 7, and then my second was 5 or 6, and then my youngest was 2. And prior to lockdown, of course, they were all in school. And it was only during lockdown when I was stuck in the house with them from morning to night with absolutely no breaks. That was the first time I realized how much I actually valued silence, because I never had a moment to myself that was just quiet. And what then happened is I started to feel really, really run down. And for me to be able to get that bit of quiet time, which I would ordinarily get while they were in school, I found myself trying to wake up earlier. So waking up even before everyone else. If that meant it has to be 30 minutes earlier than my regular waking up time, that's what it would be, just so I could have a moment. And that's what I'm talking about when we're talking about creating a pause. So just finding the 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how much time you can spare. But that quiet, where you can hear yourself think, when you can connect with your mind, you can connect with your spirit, is so important before you even start your day. So some simple self-care ideas, meditation, prayer, that's very important. That's what I use my 15 to 30 minutes in the morning, where I can just be at peace, where I can be quiet, where I can still my mind, because that's a very important way to launch into the day. Exercise, of course, I'm a big advocate for exercise. Not only is it fantastic for your health, as we all know, lowers your weight, lowers blood pressure, increases blood flow to your brain, balances your hormones, releases endorphins. We all know the good stuff that comes with exercise, but it's also so great for your mental health as well in terms of reducing stress. Going to bed early. Now, it might be tempting when you're having a bit of a rough day to get home and you want to watch TV series. I know I have lots of friends who are big, what's this one that's really popular? Like the Korean dramas. Does anyone watch any K-dramas? Please let me know in the comments if you watch. I've never watched any, but let me know. So you can just, you just want to get home and binge on your K-dramas or whatever it may be. But while that might feel good in the moment, it's not ultimately helpful. What you need is sleep, and prioritizing sleep is so important. Another one is reading a book before bed, not scrolling on your phone. Many of us are guilty of scrolling through maybe social media, scrolling through Instagram or Twitter, seeing who they are dragging on Twitter this night, going through your phone before you go to sleep does not make for good sleep. It's better to read a book. So put the phone away. It's not helpful. Take a walk around your neighborhood. Take bath time seriously. So again, during lockdown, bath time became like a religious affair for me. So even just making sure I take 20 minutes to really scrub myself down while I'm in the shower, I'm thinking, I'm taking deep breaths. Bath time is something that women can really utilize as a moment to themselves. So don't rush through it if you can. Just use it as a moment of peace. Or whatever works best for you. I have friends who love to cook. Cooking is a form of self-care for them. Personally, for me, cooking is a form of stress for me. But there are people who love it and they love to bake, and that helps them feel a bit better. But whatever, everyone knows what works for them. For me, oddly, it's arranging my cosmetics. Like if I could just sit at my vanity desk and arrange my cosmetics, that gives me an odd sense of peace. I don't know, but everyone knows individually what works for themselves. So start with a small step today, and then make weekly appointments with yourself. This says weekly, but it can actually be monthly. But whatever it is, find a date and actually schedule it. So lack of time is one reason why so many women fail to take care of their bodies. And so I recommend that you put it as an event in your calendar. So actually make a note and say, okay, today I'm blocking out this time to do X, Y, Z. So therefore, set a dedicated time for self-care. It might be one Saturday every 2 weeks. You say, okay, once, this Saturday, I'm going to see my friend. I'm going to have lunch with Bimpe at 2 p.m. and schedule it as an appointment that you cannot miss. Put it in your calendar. Or I'm going to the salon because I'm going to wash my hair. Schedule it. Try experimenting, of course, see what works for you. But I found that scheduling these pockets of joy and these moments of joy, the same way I would schedule an appointment, the same way I would schedule a webinar as a non-negotiable, is the way you have to prioritize your self-care. But most importantly, stick to the appointment that you set with yourself. Again, it takes a lot of unlearning because we are trained to put ourselves last. So it seems like this lunch with Bimpe, do I need to do it when I can be doing laundry? Set a date, stick to that appointment. And when you repeatedly do it, you now start to prioritize yourself because you now take yourself as important as an appointment at work, as a meeting at work, as an appointment at the embassy. Take it that seriously because your physical health and your mental health depends on it. You also cannot pour from an empty cup. So the truth of the matter is, running from a place of depletion is not helpful to you, nor is it helpful to the people around you. It's very tempting to keep going because we tend to think the harder we work, the more we're suffering, the better the result. But that's not the truth, because once you're depleted, you get to a place where you have absolutely nothing left to give. And then you're now empty and depleted for the people that are depending on you, like your husband, your children, your work. You have a breakdown. Who does it help? Nobody. So it's important that you stick to self-care appointments and prioritize your health. Lastly, seek support when you need it. The world conditions women to think that they must be able to do it all by themselves, but that's not true. Receiving help is not a sign of weakness. So what I try to explain to a lot of women in my network is that the way we're operating now is not the way it was meant to be. Children were actually brought up in tribes. That's why we have the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Because truly, villages raise one child. I remember when I lived in the village very briefly, between when I was age 3 and 5, I lived in the village, and I remember I would set out in the morning. So after school, I would come home, and then I'll just set out, me and my younger sister, and we're just walking around, wherever we ended up. So I'll probably end up at neighbor A's house for lunch. I'll end up at neighbor B's house for some fruits. Maybe they'll give me some mangoes, I can play. I'll end up at neighbor C's house to climb a tree, and then I'm back home to do homework and I go to sleep. And then it was the other way around. Sometimes kids would just show up at, my my grandmother's house and get fed and go about their merry way. But everyone knew each other and everyone was able to help in raising the child. Unfortunately, society isn't set up like that anymore. We don't raise children in communities anymore. It's mothers, parents now. I mean, thankfully, men seem to be stepping up a bit more these days, but it's primarily the mother, one person who's expected to raise not just one child, but 2 or 3 or 4. And apart from raising those children, you're expected to work, you're expected to earn a living, you're expected to contribute towards your home, you're expected to contribute towards your society, you're still expected to be a good daughter. Of course, you're expected to be a fantastic daughter-in-law. You're still expected because, women are the spiritual leaders of the home. That's not true, it's the men, but that's a conversation for another day. You're still expected to lead your husband and your children to heaven. All these expectations on one person where it was not meant to be like that. So women are already constantly overworked. And we then think we're meant to do it by ourselves, but we're not. Receiving help is not a sign of weakness. So if you're still struggling to make yourself a priority, getting more support may be what is required to help you experience more balance and fulfillment in your life. So delegating as much as you can. I'm a big believer in delegating. Delegate, delegate, delegate. There's no woman that's able to do it all on their own. Whatever help you can get it. And when help is offered, allow yourself receive it. Again, because we have this mentality of being superwoman and you're supposed to do everything on your own, it's actually also quite often difficult for us to accept help when it comes, because you're like, oh, no. Again, I'm talking to myself because it's very hard for me to ask for help. And it's also very hard for me to receive help. But it really takes a lot of rewiring of your mind to be able to allow yourself and give yourself grace. And these are some of the things that come when you start to think of yourself as a priority alongside all the other things we have to do every day. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to receiving or answering any questions if you may have any. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I've enjoyed preparing it for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nicole. I'm sure I can speak for as many people as possible on here to say that we thoroughly, judging by the comment section, we thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. And as has been with all our speakers today, very practical, very relatable. We could see ourselves in some of the things that you said. And I did warn earlier on that you would listen, and for some people who had felt guilty about taking care of themselves or just feeling that guilt of, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be having this time of napping, you've been liberated. So thank you for that liberating presentation. I saw a few things in the comments, but one of the things that stood out for a number of people is where you said that discipline is one of the highest forms of self-care. So I thought to myself, oh, it was going good until, that cake in my hand, I would now feel guilty because I have to discipline myself to not take another slice or not pick another thing and just restrict or restrain myself. And then, in the comments, the comments is flowing. We have such a fantastic audience. It's been so engaging from start till now. Thank you. I was going to ask that we just say to ourselves or type in the box, I put myself first. I pick myself first. I matter, because oftentimes every other person goes forward before you. So work, family, life, and like Nicole said, even leading them to heaven and, spiritual life takes precedence. But now it's time to look after yourself. It's time to put yourself first, because if you don't look after yourself, then you're not empowered to actually look after others. And so as we reflect on those things, and very importantly, think of how we can implement some of the useful tips that Nicole has given us going forward. We'll take a quick break. We have an important message to share with you from Stanbic IBTC. When we come back, we've collated some of your questions, and then we'll be posing to Trisha, who had spoken earlier on your social media presence, and of course to Nicole. So if you have questions for either of our facilitators, then please use the Q&A box to your right-hand side, and we'll take them once we come back from this video. Stanbic IBTC, it can be. Part of self-care, as the video was playing, is being able to dance. And, as the announcement of the video played earlier, I was dancing on my seat and I thought, it's okay now. This is self-care, looking after myself and doing the things that I actually enjoy doing. Part of self-care is being able to smile. So buried in work and frowning in front of our computer screens, that sometimes we don't even take time to smell the coffee, to enjoy life, to dance when you hear the sound of music, to smile at a joke, to laugh at someone, not at someone or with someone. These are simple things that we can do to ensure that we're really enjoying life as we are working hard and being the very best, smashing glass ceilings, breaking the bias and rising over the bias. Now, in the comments, if you look at your comments, you'd see that there's a link that's been posted there. Would love to get your feedback on today's event. Would ask you to kindly complete the feedback survey, and so that we can help us serve you better for future events. Now, I would like to, at this point, apologize. We've noticed in the comments that for today's session, unfortunately, some people have had challenges interacting and connecting fully with the participants due to network challenges. We apologize for that. I think one of the things we should put in the poll next time when it comes to what are the things that challenges us at work as women is internet, bad network in some parts of where we live. But thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking with us through it all. We see the numbers have been consistent. It is exciting. We are happy to see in the comments that you found it very useful and that the conversations have been very thought-provoking and you would apply it in your own personal life. So thank you very much. I think at this point, for being such a fantastic audience, you deserve a round of applause. So you've applauded others. Give yourselves an round of applause as you celebrate yourselves. Thank you very much. We're going to be moving over now to the Q&A segment, and we will bring back Trisha as well as Nicole. People have tons of questions.
All right, so we will bring up Trisha and Nicole now. It seemed just as Ayo called the network providers decided to teach her a lesson. How dare you call us out? Super. Okay, while we wait for Ayo to rejoin us, without further ado, we will take a number of questions, so we'll just scroll through. So Trisha, Olushola asked, how can one detect the most useful social media platform? Another question for you, if we can just take 2 questions or in batches of 2s and 3s. Another question for you, please. How can I overcome stage fright? I love outspoken women, but I can't face the crowd. That's from Fatima. So Trisha, if you can help us with those 2, and I will just take this one for Nicole. Balogun Adedoyin asked, how do you cope when you want to create time to be with your young children and your boss proves difficult by not giving you enough time? So I will just ask, please, Trisha and Nicole, that we take those 3 questions and then we'll come back for a couple more. Thank you so much. Over to you, Trisha.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Lara. So the first question, how to identify the most useful social media platform. I think that you need to just ask yourself, who's the audience that you want to serve and where are they? So for instance, if you're trying to promote your career, push yourself out there career-wise, then you want to be on LinkedIn. If you're trying to get buyers, get people to interact with your content, buy from you, notice you, you want to try Instagram, you want to try Facebook. If you are trying to build your personal brand and get people to understand the value that you bring to the table, then you want to try YouTube, you want to try Instagram. If you are trying to get people who are intentionally looking for your type of content and they are most likely buyers, but they want to learn and understand what it is, you want to be on Pinterest. Because unlike other social media platforms, nobody goes to Pinterest to go and chat. When you go on Pinterest, you are going to look for somebody's interior design you can copy. You're going to look for somebody's style that you can get. You're going to look for information. So you're looking for people who are directly looking for the type of information you have. Then a platform like Pinterest is it. So you want to just understand what you are trying to do, and then which platform helps you achieve it. Then the other question is overcoming stage fright. For me, there's really no answer to that per se. Like, no, like do this, do that. What I always say is that in doing, you become. Right? So that thing that you're scared of, just do it. You can learn the etiquettes of public speaking. You can learn the things you should do when you are going on a stage, like how to moderate, how to modulate and all of that. But I'll just tell you to just do it. Because when you continually do something, that's how you become an expert. You become an expert in doing, not necessarily learning about it. When you speak once, you speak twice, you speak thrice, and then you just keep improving yourself. So that's what I just say to you. Just do it either ways. And maybe you want to pack on a cheerleading squad, maybe your best friend, your spouse, who can just be somewhere beside you and just cheering you on and giving you feedback for the next time. Or I'll just say do it. Do it afraid. Thank you.
All right, super. Nicole, do you want to quickly take your question?
I'm so sorry. Can I be reminded of the question? I think it had to do with, please remind me of the question.
How do you cope when you want to create time to be with your young children, but you have a challenging boss at work? And perhaps while I'm reading the question again, there was just another question that was posted not long ago related to that as well, which says, what if you're unhappy with your work? How do you build happiness and peace of mind?
Okay, so with the first question, having a demanding boss that does not allow you spend adequate amounts of time with your children, I'm sure that's something that a lot of women can relate to. I think I don't work in the corporate sector, but for me and for the conversations I've had with women like that, I think it's also realizing that everything is in phases. And so in this phase in your life, you just may not have the opportunity to be there as much as you can, but your time will come. And if you start to feel like it's taking away too much from your family and it's really starting to affect your mental health, then it's something you're going to really have to look at. Because at the end of the day, if you are flourishing in a career, but you are desperately unhappy, then you are unhappy. So I would say if it's something that you think you can push through, you can kind of soldier through, then I would suggest that you do that, because everything is in phases and you can't have it all at the same time. That's one of the things that I've really taken out of being a mother and a business person. Like when I was trying to grow my business, it meant that I wasn't spending as much time with my children. But as the business stabilized, I was able to now make that time back up. And maybe this is a season in your life or in your career where you really need to log in those hours. But knowing that you're doing the best that you can, communicating with your children, I think is also very important. Like no matter what, try and keep those lines of communication open and let them know that they can always speak to you, even if you're not physically available. I have lots of friends and lots of women in my network who have the camera apps on their phones, so they're able to even just looking into their house while they're at work gives them a tremendous sense of peace, knowing that they can actually see their children. We bless God for technology. We bless God for the ability to be able to FaceTime your children as often as you can, even if it's through your nanny's phones or whoever, if they're too small to have phones. So the technology is there. Let's use it. But then also remember that this is a season. And this is something that you just have to push through for now, and it will get better. And you know what? Your children will appreciate when it comes to things that have to do with your community that your children actually want to see you fulfilling yourself, that's what gives them gratification. So at the end of the day, when they grow up and they leave the house, they're able to look back and say, my mother was this, she worked hard, and she was a fulfilled person. So I think that that's also as important, that sense of fulfillment. But yes, the main thing is use what's available, use the technology, get the camera app, even if you're just looking at your children, if that's helping you. I think that's a good place to start. But this too shall pass. Just push through. And if it doesn't get better and you feel like it's really starting to affect your mental health, then you need to really look at your career choice and what makes sense for you. But that's not I don't think there's like a one size fits all answer to that question. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, Nicole, extremely helpful. And I think sometimes as individuals, it's really important that we check our environment and our situations and take the decisions that are most important for ourselves. Thank you so much, Nicole. So we are out of time, but not to worry, everyone. We will collate the questions and we will get back to you. We'll make sure that all of our speakers help with some of the responses, and we will share them with you. We would also share the recording so that you can watch again, especially for those of us who have had network challenges. So not to worry at all. So just as we close out, Tricia, a lot of people have asked about knowing how you are doing it right. So if you've done all there is to be done and you're still not visible on social media, or your platform still lacks engagement, what do you do? And I know that it is slightly out of scope, but a number of people have been asking around sort of product branding, I think especially for entrepreneurs and business owners. So perhaps if you want to throw in any nugget regarding that, that will be useful. So just wanted to quickly flag that as a final question. And then there was one question, bear with me one moment, that was flagged for Nicole. Yes, how can one overcome depression? So if you will, please speak to those two questions very quickly as we wrap up the session. That will be really useful. Thank you. Over to you, Tricia, then Nicole.
Thank you. So something I was also doing is I was also replying questions in the Q&A section. So I already answered the branding question and a couple of questions. So if you ask the question, look like it was for me, you already have one answer to your question there because I knew there's not time enough to answer all verbally. But to this question, after doing everything and still not making progress, I get people say this a lot, and I will say that something has to be fundamentally wrong for you to have tried everything and you're still not getting the results you want, either in terms of engagement or either in terms of sales. So for instance, what's that thing? How many of you have ever shared somebody's content? Tell me in the comment section. You've seen this, maybe this hilarious joke by one of the comedians, or you've seen one of Nicole's skits, and she's teaching you something about motherhood, and you're like, man, Tricia, come and see this. Dr. Wana, come and see this. How many of you have ever seen content on any social media platform and you've tagged your friend to the content, or you have shared it to somebody, WhatsApp or anywhere? Just tell me how many, just a yes or a no. Have you done it before? I want to see something quickly. And most of us, the answer will be yes, even before I look at the comment section. Why? Because there's this unwritten rule that when you come across content that is either educative, it is inspiring, it is something, you are sharing it. So the first rule for getting people to engage with your work and get the results you want is your content has to be shareable. You must be creating content that is shareable. Most times, your content cannot stand the test of content quality. So that's why we just skim through your work, if at all we see it. So that's the first thing, one, shareable content. The second thing that I'll tell you is You need to take yourself or your service or your product to the places that have your audience. So there are people who have spent time curating their pages, curating their communities. So if you want more people to see what you do and they are not necessarily coming your way, you should either, if you don't have the money, I always say, go and engage in this community. For instance, Instagram is my zone. And for those who are like, Trisha, I don't have money to pay an influencer or to pay a community leader, one thing I tell them, spend time engaging with their content. Because most people right now, they are reading comments. They leave the main post. The juice is in the comments. When you add quality comments, people are like, oh, who is this person? This person has sense or not. And you click to see this person who is either so sensible or so silly, right? So that's free engagement in a community that's getting people to see you. And sometimes the owner of the community pings your comments and more people get to see you. But if you have money to pay the owner of the community to post or advertise your product or service in their space, right? When I started Trisha Biz, I had like 2,000 or something followers. I was teaching across any community I could find. I was teaching everywhere because I just wanted people to know who I was. So if Nicole had 5,000 people, I would send her a DM. This is what I do. She has my audience. This is what I do. I would like to come and educate your audience. And I kept going. I was teaching almost every day because I wanted to expose myself to more people. So there are so many things you can do, but those are the two things that I'll just drop quickly. First, your content needs to be on point. If you have to go and learn how to create content that is shareable, please go and learn. There's so many coaches and teachers teaching how to create content across any platform. It's not just Instagram, across YouTube. Your content needs to be shareable and they need to find your content when they search in the search bar. On LinkedIn as well, it's the same thing, right? And the second is, if you do not have the audience, go and pay. Or if you don't have money, you have to invest in time, but you have to be paying something. Either you're paying through your time or through cash. You go and pay someone who has the audience to show people your work. And by the time they're showing your work better be good. So when they land on your platform, they see that you are actually worth your onion. All right. So those are two things that I would say. And if I quickly touch on the branding, see that branding is so vast that we can be at that for days. But what I normally will say is ensure that your branding is one that the intended recipients of the branding see it and appreciate it. So have you ever made a buying decision based on just looking? Let me ask another question. Like, let's say you're walking in ShopRite or Spar or one of those stores, etc., and you want to maybe buy, I don't know, juice. And you just look at the bottles. You look at the bottles, and based on the bottles and the labeling, you pick a bottle of juice and go to the counter and buy. How many of us have done that? Yes or no? So many times people are, looking at what it is you've put on the table or on the shelf to make a buying decision. So if you understand what your audience use to make buying decisions, is it how bright the label is? Is it that the text or the letters are very bold? Is it that you have to put the warnings and all of that? That is branding. Branding is not for you to feel how beautiful your branding is. I see a lot of yes, right? It's for the intended recipient to see it and take a buying decision based on what you put there. So go and learn who your audience is, learn what they use to make informed buying decisions, and then interpret that into the personality of your brand, and then create your branding. So this is an example for a physical product, which is packaging labeling. If it's a personal brand, you want to ask yourself, what are the colors? What is the look and feel? What are the fonts that when I use, people understand that I'm trying to pass across that this is a parenting brand, or these are the things that I'm trying to pass across to show that this is an online education company. At the end of the day, for me, branding doesn't start with you, even though you are the founder. It starts with who the recipient is and what interpretation they will take out of what you see. When you embed that into your personality, you build an amazing branding for your product or your service. So yeah, that is
excellent.
it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Nicole, do you want to, in 1 minute, speak to handling depression in the simplest form possible?
Okay, so that's a fantastic question. Depression is something that I'm glad that we're having more and more conversations around, because it really is an illness. It's an illness. And I think that the very first step is even recognizing that this is what's happening to you. And I think it's important to seek help. I think that we should be moving away from the stigma of receiving therapy, of maybe even being on medication. But the first thing I would say is speak to someone, because I mean, it's possible that you are really depressed, but depression is a clinical thing, or you might be exhausted, you might be overwhelmed, which is understandable in the world that we live in. I would say maybe first go through a couple of the things I had stated in the seminar, taking a moment to yourself. We live in such a busy world. Sometimes you don't even get a chance to hear yourself think. Exercise is another fantastic thing that helps with releasing endorphins, which are the hormones that keep you balanced and happy. So exercise is one of those things that is greatly pushed as something that really helps with depression or that feeling of anxiety and being overwhelmed. But for me, the most important thing I would say, if I only have 1 minute, is seek out help. Talk to someone. You're not alone. Honestly, you'll be so surprised when you actually reach out to someone or you reach out to get help, how many people are willing to help you. I think it's important that you also speak to a professional. Don't try and do it on your own if you genuinely suspect that what you're dealing with is depression. And I wish you all the best with that. It's not easy, but you can overcome it. And if you know anyone who's going through the same thing, please tell them there's no shame in asking, reaching out for professional help, and then trying some of the things that I had mentioned as well. Thank you.
Larapis, can I throw in some seconds of a sentence or two to buttress what
No
Nicole
problem.
said?
In 10
So,
seconds, yes.
you know, the last statement that Nicole made is very powerful. Don't just speak to anybody, speak to an expert. So I suffered depression most of this year. I've actually just resumed work this year, this month. So it rendered my year half useless, but that's fine. And I realized that I was speaking to my friends and it was just divergent opinions because they are not experts. So please get an expert. If you cannot afford, therapists, there's a website, betterhelp.com. My sister signed me up there. There's like over 2,000 therapists from across the world. Based on your situation, they'll pair you with someone. It's betterhelp.com, and it really helped me. Just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Thank you, Nicole, as well. Please get help and please get professional help. And I'm excited that Tricia is very well because now you're able to, share your life and expertise with us. Really appreciate both of you for your time with us this morning. We have learned so much. Everyone in the chat room, can you please give virtual claps and thank yous and everything to Tricia and Nicole as we say goodbye to them. Thank you so much for a very insightful session and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. So to everyone, thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing. In the chat room, we still have the post-event survey. So if you can, please just go there and let us know how you have found the session. A poll will be coming up now, just so that we can quickly gauge sort of what we have learned and where we are now compared to where we were at the beginning of the session. So in 1 minute, if you can just respond to the poll. We have it there. Excellent. It's up now. What are you going to do differently going forward? So the options are there. I will deliberately put myself forward for more opportunities. I will pay more attention to caring for myself and my personal needs. I will re-strategize to build my personal brand online and offline. And of course, there's the option all of the above. So we will give about 30 seconds. Please let us know what your responses are. Excellent, excellent. I'm seeing a lot of people saying I would deliberately put myself forward for more opportunities. Great, great choice. Great choice. A lot of people also saying all of the above. It seems many people are saying I would actually consciously be doing all of these things, paying more attention to caring for myself and my personal needs, re-strategizing to build my personal brand online and offline. Excellent, excellent. The poll is still on. Tell us very quickly, a few more seconds. A few more seconds, the poll is still active. Deliberately put myself forward. Pay more attention to caring for myself. Re-strategize to building my personal brand online. Super. A lot of us are deciding that we're going to consciously do all of these things. 203 votes for all of the above. Excellent. Well done, everyone. It means you have been paying attention, and it means that you are taking a decision to pay more attention to you going forward. Excellent decision, excellent choice. It means that our work has been useful. All right, the poll is closing, so we can see what the responses are. But thank you so much, everyone who has joined in today. Thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you so much to all of our attendees. So without further ado, allow me please bring up the Executive Director of Business Development at Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers and the host of this event, Nike Bajamo, to give us the closing remarks. Over to you, Nike.
Thank you very much, Lara. And I don't know about you, it's been an exciting morning for me. A very good way to start the day. Good morning, everyone. Or when I say good afternoon, it's already past 12. And I'd like to thank you once again for taking our time to be part of the second edition of the Ladies at the Table Empowerment Series, LATTES, powered by Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. I believe we have all had a very rewarding morning. I have. I really have. I took copious notes as Shola and Tricia and Nicole spoke. And personally, I have identified 3 things I need to start doing and 2 things I need to stop doing. I'm confident you all got a few nuggets as well. On behalf of the board, management, and staff of Stanbic IBTC, we thank our distinguished keynote speaker, Mrs. Shola Devibora, our fitness and wellness enthusiast, Nicole Chicory, as well as our business fixer, Tricia Olufemi Olumide, very much for honoring our invitation, sharing with us so passionately, and being exemplary leaders in their various fields of specialization. You have evidently broken the bias and continue to inspire many women. We thank you for being vulnerable, for sharing with us, the things you have gone through, because that's made it easier for us to relate and to know that we are not alone. We are grateful for your thought-provoking and inspirational sessions, and trust that you will honor us again whenever we call. Once again, thank you very much for your time. To our esteemed audience, this would not have been possible without you. Thanks again, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Over to you, Lara.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And a round of applause to Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers in the chat room. It has been such an inspiring session. LATTES Season 1 was excellent, and LATTES Season 2 has been phenomenal. If you are like me, I cannot wait for LATTES Season 3. Excellent. So thank you so much. A round of applause to everyone. Do remember to complete the post-event survey so that we can know what you think about the event and also what you would like us to discuss at the next season of LATTES. From all of us at Stanbic IBTC, we'd like to say thank you so much for sharing your morning with us, and have a good rest of the day. There's one final exciting video that we'd like to leave you with as we say goodbye. Thank you again. My name is Lara Ibirogba, and have a lovely afternoon. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Kupa you, kupa me. Mama me, kupa you. Kupa you, kupa me. Mama me, kupa you. Kupa you, kupa me. Mama me, kupa you. Kupa you, kupa me. Mama me, waiting I they feel like the bad guys that I mean that in real life. That's right, that is ginger to chill like 7 days in a week. I beg of you, don't ask why. Alright, okay now. The world that you see is my own playground. I got it locked and there's no way out. So the party don't go pop if I know they're around. Yeah. Salute to the boss when you come across it. Certified G like me. For the game I be MVP. Nobody be ball like me.
Easy to flex is a must. And of course, you know everything's on me. Everywhere I be VIP. Nobody can do it like me.
Why you, me no send nobody. Mommy, why you, sure as go by me. Why you, me no send nobody. Mommy, why you, sure as go by me. You know what it look like, we put the good in the good life. Swag so lit, them I look twice. Not because I look nice, but because I'm covered and I look nice. So unbothered, that's a look, right? As the money don't choke, I put my team on. Now we all making the killing the cheese long. You can never be scared when you stand big IBTC shirt. Salute to the boss when you come across it. Certified G like me. For the game I be MVP. Nobody be ball like me.
Easy to flex is a must. And of course, you know everything's on me. Everywhere I be VIP. Nobody can do it like me.
Why you, me no send nobody. Mommy, why you, sure as go by me. Why you, me no send nobody. Mommy, why you, sure as go by me. Why you, me no send nobody. Sure as go by me. Ever since I started rolling with Stanbic BTC Insurance Life has been nothing but sugar and spice, cool and nice. Yes, no be lie to make the right moves. I don't need a map, I got the right tools. How you think my confidence is quite huge, and is everybody feeling my cool? If you see the gang and the gang, you go let me say money be the best friend. Still calling the shots like bang bang. Another round for the girlies and the men. Somebody, close up by the shoulder. I know that you're VIP.
Get covered with life insurance from Stanbic IBTC Insurance. Visit stanbicibtcinsurance.com to learn more. Stanbic IBTC, a member of Standard Bank Group.
Stanbic IBTC Insurance, baby.